Okay guys, Smart Dummy here. So here you have a Tecumseh a carburetor, right? So the the carburetor here, right? You have your fuel supply right here, right? And then it goes back to your, so this is my inlet here, and this is an outlet. No, this is a inlet, this is an outlet right here, right? And here you have your butterfly valve right here, right? And then over here you have your air supply right here, which is where your filter goes, right? So in the case of this weed eater here, right? This is this engine here became flooded, meaning that so it was being supplied with more fuel to air ratio mixture or vice versa, right? In this case, I know that it was being run rich, or it was being supplied with more gasoline, um, or carbohydrates, right, than it actually needed, right? So, so pretty much like gas was leaking into the oil, right? Because there's a leak somewhere. And usually with these types of carburetors, what happens is that, your fuel is being, this is my throttle here, is being supplied. If you can see it there, there's a little blue stem right there, right? That's my fuel distributor, um, right there, right? So that's my jet, which is like attached to my jet, which is this little brass screw that has two little holes right here. If you can see them, just dropped in. You see, it has a hole right there, and it has a hole right there, and that will screw in to this, and that acts as my jet, right? Um, it screws in right there, and that will, if you see that, there's a little blue stem. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it'll jet, or it'll like it'll like pump a like a mist, right? A misty fuel supply, right? Like a mist, and then that will be then taken to the engine. So what happens when this this valve doesn't close right? We have a needle valve right there. Let's see if I can show you. Right, there's a needle. There's a needle valve right there, right? And that when that needle valve doesn't close enough, it doesn't close well any longer, right? The fuel that's in your cradle starts to bleed when it's fully closed. So when the fuel completely fills up, right, in the cradle, it goes all the way up like that, right? It's like floating on the fuel. And that means that the valve is fully closed, right? When it doesn't close enough, well, fuel still bleeds, even though it's not supposed to, right? So you get a rich amount of fuel there, and then that floods your engine. And even when it's closed, and when it's in a load, right, and there's more suction, right, it'll take that fuel, and then it will go down the manifold, right? It goes down the manifold and then into your crankcase, and then into your engine, and then that's how it becomes um like like you know rich, or it becomes flooded and it cannot start, right, and any longer. So the solution to that in most cases is to completely flood the engine first. You have to like drain all the oil, right? And then there's a little seat right here, right? Stuff just fell. There's a seat right there, and if the needle is made out of metal, then more than likely the seat is going to be made out of rubber, and that what happens over time is that seat like starts to stretch, right? That seat will start to stretch and it will start to deform and no longer seats, and even if it's just a little bit like if there's a bit of a gap, even just a small one, it will like leak like um little by little, right? Um, so it'll start to flood your engine, right? So sometimes it's just like replacing that seat, and so that the needle valve can, can shut like all the way when the flow comes up all the way and your cradle is completely filled, um, so that it doesn't leak any longer, right? Um, they can get the good suction and enough air supply and fuel, right? So there's that, and like there's something that you can do. There's this test here. I'm going to show you. This is a pressure test. I don't have an actual gauge, a pressure gauge, but how you can test that, you know, how you can test that is by using, um, a floor pump here. Um, so you basically, let me see if I can show you. So you grab this floor pump, right? You have your fuel supply right here, um, and then you're just gonna get your Schrader valve right here. You take your Schrader valve, you put it in there. What I had to do is that I had to use tape here to create a seal, right? Because this nipple here is smaller in diameter, so it would leak out air, right? So you put, because um, this is a dual head nozzle, right? Uh, so I had to use it like this, right? And then here you have this, and you have your hole right here, right? And you're gonna clog it with your finger like that, with your thumb. Make sure that it's not leaking, right? And it's gonna act as your needle when it's fully closed, right? And this should hold. For me, I did it 2 times, and it was able to hold at 5 minutes, for 5 minutes. So the pressure should hold. So you pump it, and then you want to get it. You see this pump? See if you can see it there. Um, this line right here, that's like 5, right? So I was able to hold it um, for 2 times here. So you do that, right? At like about 3 psi, and you hold it, and if it can hold the pressure, then that means that the the carburetor is holding the pressure, and it's more than likely just your seat or your needle, right? That's not holding the pressure. So that's a test that you can do at home